There's no arguing that people love their cars.
We weren't arguing.
They talk about their cars, sing about their cars. Some people even look like their car. Whether it's an old car, new old car, fast car, family car, electric car, race car, two-wheel car, no-wheel car, or a car you know's parked around here somewhere. People who love their cars love to tinker with them. Some people tinker big, some people tinker small. Some people tinker some degree between those two variables.
Whose voice is that?
And that's where Supercheap Auto comes in. We've been helping people tinker for 50 years. For people like Bill, Lucy, Kevin, other Kevin.
Oi, get off my car!
Didn't catch this guy's name.
It's Kevin.
Not Patrick. He doesn't shop with us. Whoever you are, whatever you drive, we'll help you make it super. Because super is our middle name. Well, technically it's our first.
Yeah, g'day John, how are you? Yeah, track I know very little about, never driven it. I only just recently bought it, so yeah, it should be interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting around this place. And of course, not sure if my audios were right there at the start, but if they are, welcome to the Supercheap Auto East Coast V8 series. I'm John Van Ree, with me is Mark Duggan. We are tonight at the Algarve Portimao circuit in southern Portugal, down in the tourist area of town, and we start on the start-finish straight and head down into the Primera turn number 1, where we take a big sharp swing out to the right through turn 2 and up into Lagos turn 3, then sweep back through turn 4 and then down into Torre Vipe at turn 5, the hairpin, where we then accelerate back out through turn 6 and 7, all the way up into the tight right-hander at Samsung, and then we sweep down through Craig Jones, one of the weirdest names for a corner, up to Portimao at turn 10 and 11, and then we sweep back down through 12 and 13, up through Sagres, and then into Galp, the big sweeping Galp turn 15. Some undulation changes here up in the hills. Up in the hills, of course, off the Mediterranean, or not quite the Mediterranean coast, off the Atlantic coast, and definitely an undulating circuit, which will also make it quite interesting with how these cars get around it. And while we've got the last minute to go in the qualifying time frame, before qualifying starts, let's have a very quick look at the point structure. This includes the 2 drop rounds. The overall leader, of course, is James Scott from Scott Gamble. Very tight. Not too many points in between them. Drop back then to Jacob O'Reilly, Ty Delaney in 4th, and then it gets really tight between Vlasov, Visma, Mulford, Stone Street. If we then go and break it down to our pro driver class, we wind up with James Scott still on top. From Scott Gamble, Jacob O'Reilly, Anthony Visma, and Alan Dawson only 2 points ahead of Zachary Vlasbom, who is 2 points ahead of Ty Delaney. So very tight in the midfields of our pro class. The Super 2 drivers, Troy Stone Street is a very handy 7 points ahead of Tim Mulford, but there's not that many points to be thrown around here, so definitely can easily be passed. Dave Coleman in 3rd is sitting not too far behind on 12.21. Steve Tonkin from JWM Sim Sports is in 4th, just ahead of John Fillingham. Reg James in 6th from WK&P. Reg won't be with us this evening as he is in house moving mode. And then we flick over to the Vets class, of course, being led quite comfortably by Scotty Gamble. Troy Stonestreet sitting in second, and the Veterans rookie John Fillingham from Veterans Gaming Australia 1 point ahead of Reg James. Anyway, Mark, these guys are about to start rolling out for qualifying.
Yeah, so pretty close in the Super 2 there, and yeah, Scotty Gamble's got a good lead in the Vets, and James Scott leading the Pro Series. But the Super 2 boys have had a pretty good battle all season, and that's pretty tight, and I think tonight will be pretty critical to the outcome of the points championship in that segment. So we know Dave Coleman, Tim Mulford and Troy Stonestreet have all been racing fairly hard. We see especially Timmy Mulford and Dave Coleman door to door most weeks here, so looking forward to that one. But also new track, you know, we often complain that there's not enough content, new content on iRacing, and you know, they give us these tracks and we need to get out on them and experiment with them and see how the V8's race around them. And I'm sure this is a track that will keep coming up on the calendar in the future, and these boys that are here tonight will have a bit of a head start.
Yeah, of course, Vets are here on Thursday night, and I know I have done 0 laps and I'm very worried about that. But these guys, they have done their practice already this evening. They have gotten some track time. As we jump on here with James Scott doing the slow outlap thing. He's managed to get space by himself. Space shouldn't be an issue this evening. Martin Lofthouse, of course, from JWM Motorsports. He's out on circuit as well. Dave Coleman, Fishy Motorsports. Dave sitting third in the Super 2 Championship. Has had some pretty good results and is a guy who's very good at looking after his car and fuel. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes this evening. Jacob O'Reilly from Vermeulen Motorsport. Expecting big things from him tonight. He should be running in the top 3 or 4 cars, I would imagine, as he starts his flying lap. As we jump on to have a close look at this circuit, as I talked about, the undulations make it quite interesting for the cars. Nicely through Premiera, heading up through into Lagos. Gets it under control, early gear change there. Bit of a gear misshift. As he sweeps down through 4, heading down now to the hairpin at Tora Vip, sorry. Gets it pulled up. Nicely plenty of curved ears on the inside there. Of course, this circuit was last used in Formula 1 back in 2021 as part of the COVID era. And it had some cracking racing here, so it is a brilliant circuit.
Yeah, one thing noticeable for me, John, is obviously you mentioned the change of elevation and the blind crest, which is always difficult in these cars because they don't like braking super hard when you're off camber. So yeah, that's the one thing I've noticed just watching a couple of practice laps here is how many blind crests and blind corners there are.
Yeah, quite a few of these guys that I've been talking to have all been mentioning to me that you got to be very careful with the change of direction and very careful with the acceleration because it will snap. As we can see here, Jacob O'Reilly absolutely tiptoeing around the circuit, using all the curb on the inside there. Coleman first over the line. Rattray White moves into P1, O'Reilly P2. Where's the main man though? Where's James Scott? He is out the back half of the circuit still. Hobson goes P1. James still got some distance to go. And James Scott Comes across in P1 with a 1:45.593. Be expected, as this will be a new circuit for James as well. So at the moment we've got Scott, Hobson, Rattray, White, Gamble, O'Reilly, Bismarck, Stone Street, Horton. Great result for Mark Horton there to have himself sitting in 8th at the moment. Mark, of course, one of the new air drivers from Accelerate Sim Racing on the grid with Stuart East Coast. And going back, Timmy Mulford, he's a long way down the order, so a little bit of work to be done by a few of these lads as they're all in on their in lap at the moment. So just waiting for them to run through. Rattray White, first one back to the lane. A big shout out, of course. Evening, Stacey Boy. Morning, Stacey Boy. Ben Faulkner in the chat as well. Graham Benyon from Ireland. Welcome. And all my Irish friends and ex-cricketing mates. Say hello to you too as well if you're watching. And of course, apparently Toby's watching as well. So welcome, guys. Should be an interesting race. Small field tonight as expected for the new track late in the series. But I think we're still going to see some very tight racing.
Yeah, it's very much an unknown, isn't it, for everyone? For us as broadcasters, drivers, none of us have raced here before. None of us have. I haven't seen any racing around here on iRacing as yet. So, yeah, it's all new for all of us. So, yeah, it's going to produce some interesting outcomes, I'm sure.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of SRW on Sunday. That's about all I've seen of this place. Bought it just so I could do the vet set up the vet service. That's about all I've done with it at the moment. But it does look like a very good track. Looking forward to hopefully turning a few laps tomorrow night. I'm sure other people will have other ideas for me. But we'll see how that plays out here tonight as these guys are all on their outlap at the moment except for Joe Mahoney.
But I'm sure one thing will ring true, John, and that is the cream will rise to the top as it always does.
Oh, absolutely. And the rest of them, we'll see who learns fast and who doesn't. Smaller field, shouldn't be any excuse being bogged down. As we have a look here at John Fillingham. And I click on the right button. John hasn't set a time yet, so he's about to come over, set his first time. He comes in with a 150.990. And we still haven't got a time from Alan Dawson as well. He's the other name that we need to see set a time here.
Certainly looks like a track where picking up an off track will be pretty easy, I think. Like I said, I haven't cut any laps here, so I don't know what it's like to drive, but just from my viewing of drivers out on the circuit at the moment, it looks like with the blind crest, the blind corners, off tracks will certainly come into play during qualifying if you're going to be cautious.
And also it's a typical European circuit where they've used asphalt for a lot of the runoffs, which does allow people to think that they can be obliged to get that extra little bit of speed by running wide or cutting the corner that little bit. So it does invite it, like you said, Mark. And it's an interesting one to bring up because, of course, Imola's just been rejigged for F1 this weekend with an introduction of a whole heap of new sand traps being put in, replacing a lot of the gravel a lot of the bitumen sections. particularly around Aqua Minerale. So yeah, be very interesting to see how that plays out over the weekend. But you can see there as Zach Rattray White using all of the surface and a little bit more as he comes across the line with a purple sector and goes P1. What does O'Reilly do? O'Reilly stays in P3. James Scott still out on circuit.
Yeah, great lap there from Zach Rattray White. He's certainly been in pretty solid form since joining East Coast and watching him in other series as well. The only thing that's probably let him down with us here at East Coast is some of the pit strategies haven't worked out for him, but other than that, he's driving exceptionally well.
Yeah, driving really well. As Aidan Cale also jumps up to 7th. James Scott setting a purple sector in the middle. And coming around the final corner. And Scott goes back to the top with a 1:45.34. Time ticking down here. We're at 11 and a half minutes into this session.
You're not doing on an outlap or coming out for an outlap now. You're probably not going to get another one in, I don't think.
Just having a look at who's on an outlap. So Stone Street, Hobson and Gamble. Isma's going slow, so Shimmy's on an outlap as well. Gamble just in front of him there. There's a jump on with Tim Mulford. I think he's on an in-lap. Of course, with a minute 45, you're not going to have enough time to turn this around and get back out with only 2.5 minutes left. Got 30 seconds to get down pit lane, put it on the jacks, drop it, back out again.
Of course, you don't want to be going too hard on your outlap because that just uses up the tyre and the V8s and you really only get one lap out of them. So
the two Vermeulen drivers. But they are planning an attack here. So let's see what they can get up to. Aidan Cale's in the lane. Rattray White goes first in front of these boys. Gearing up to tow his teammate around. Got to be careful they don't go too slow. Minute and a half remaining.
and Hobson on a lap as well.
Just found Hobbo. Stone Street with a green sector for his first on his lap as well. So a few boys out there now starting to pick up the pace. It's only got 30 seconds left here in quali. The WK&P entry from Stone Street. Let's see what Troy does.
Hobbo's binned his, so that's done for him.
Yeah, that's not good for Hobson. And Stone Street crosses the line and doesn't improve. As it's now a case of who and where is someone on track. So Coleman might be the main man to have a look at here. Coleman tucked up behind McKnight. McKnight's going to try and tow him round by the looks. Both loose up over the rise. What we were talking about earlier. Circuit will throw things at them. So he's going to jump back on with Rattray White. A little bit of traffic in front of him here. Hopefully it won't cause him to walk out, but it sounds like it may have. James Scott tucked up behind here as well. He comfortably gets past Coleman. And sweeping down to the start-finish line. James Scott doesn't make it. It's telling me he's on an outlap, so not sure what's going on there. Trey White is across. Riley is out of it. Yep. Let's have a look at this grid as we get ready to go racing very shortly. And very short grid this evening. So we have James Scott on pole with a 145.34. Alongside him is Vermilion Motorsports, Zachary Rattray White. And then in P3 is his teammate Jacob O'Reilly. Brenton Hobson representing Synergy Sim Racing in fourth. He's already nearly 3.5 tenths slower than Scott. Gamble in fifth from the 9.5 Sim Sports entry. Alongside on the third row with him is Anthony Visma from Accelerate Sim Racing. That is a great quality from Anthony to be on the third row. And then our first Super 2 driver, Aidan Cale from BE Electrical Race on Oz, sitting in seventh. And he lines up alongside his teammate, Joe Mahoney, in eighth. And then Mark Horton from Accelerate Sim Racing in ninth, lines up alongside Troy Stone Street in 10th. In 11th, we've got Phoenix Racing's Tim Mulford lining up alongside Dave Coleman. Keep an eye on the battle between Stone Street, Mulford, Coleman, because that is where the Super 2 contest is at. And over the page, we go into, of course, Martin Lofthouse from JWME Motorsports, and he's going to line up alongside Jamie McKnight, the People's Champion from Fishy Motorsports, in 14th. 15th is Veteran Gaming Australia's John Fillingham, lining up alongside Alan Dawson from Right Sim Racing, who didn't set a time. And it looks like we may have a safe rolling start tonight. I don't know what's happened there. Ash has got something wrong, I think, Mark. And, of course, our safety car driver, not the one on the grid, is Matt McMillan. And then Richard Barella is our race control. So I think Ash may have buggered a server up. And we just go click on that one. That one. As we'll just be interesting. It's a small field. Going to be expecting probably James Scott and Rattray White to probably pull away a little bit from the rest of them. But I'm expecting the contest amongst the rest of the group to be quite hotly contested. So keep an eye on those battles as I quickly get all of my buttons clicked here to get going. And it is going to be a cracking race. 2 compulsory pit stops. We're going to have to conserve tyres. As we saw, it's a track that's got a lot of fast sweeping corners. They need to make sure they look after those tyres tonight. And, of course, a good fuel strategy to go with program as well.
The other key thing about the tyres is the track temperature's at over 51 degrees. So, yeah, preserving your tyres, driving the car as straight as possible is going to be key, and that looks like it's a difficult job to do around here. And the boys are probably, yeah, wondering what's going on with the safety car on the grid with them. So, yeah, it looks like it's going to be a rolling start, which may not be a bad thing for a change up with a new track.
Yeah, it's definitely something a bit different. I'm looking forward to seeing how this one plays out with the guys. As they all start getting onto the grid, the lights will go green and we will roll away. And safety car leads out. And we are away. Wait, these boys a little bit to get used to what's going on here, as well as us. Of course, it's not the complete scaffolding safety car we are used to looking at. Retro White cruising around. And definitely a long way all the way back to Alan Dawson. Didn't set a time in quali, but that's what his view looks like moving forward. This will be an interesting way to start. Of course, the man who sets up our servers, I know from my own experience, it can be a very tricky job at times. A lot of things need to be clicked, ticked and squared away, so...
Yeah, you only got to miss one thing, and it's it's all over. You're stuck with what you got. So, but that doesn't matter. We're going to be off and racing very soon. So, the rolling start is something that we certainly are not used to in V8 supercars. That's for sure.
Is up over the hill. But of course, if you're GT3, you'd be very used to this. So we are in Europe, I guess.
No stalled cars, which will be a good thing.
The boys at the moment be getting their breath, and so they're anxious to get underway. James hanging back a little bit, which is interesting. As we now head up into final part of the circuit before we sweep around to the line. So the field now nicely tightly bunched. And we are away. A great jump from James Scott as we're running up to the line. We should be green flag racing. And I don't know why my red lights are there. I've got to work out how to turn that off. And they've gone. There we go. We are racing. So James Scott gets the jump from O'Reilly, who's got the jump on his teammate Rattray White. Hobson in fourth. Gamble holds fifth. Visma sixth. No big movers in that process, but every car still running safely on track. Rattray White having a good hard look And his teammate O'Reilly trying to hang on to the back of James Scott. There we go, Stacey Boyd saying that the new V8 League is doing rolling starts. The American V8 League.
Yeah, I think as Australians we like the tradition of the standing start, and I don't see Aussie V8s moving away from that anytime soon. But that was a great jump from James Scott. He really caught Rattray White unawares, and I think, not sure if James has got a spotter going, but clearly he was ready for when that safety car entered pit lane. He got a great jump. Jacob O'Reilly was able to get past his teammate Zach Rattray White, and they've actually been able to open up a little bit of a gap on this opening lap.
Yeah, definitely both of them cleared out over here. Rattray White has dropped off the pace a little bit. Needs to hang on or he will lose that slipstream. Probably not a huge slipstream circuit, but you still need to be in contact. Coming behind him, you have Hobson and Gamble tucked up. So in hot pursuit. So Rattray White under a lot of pressure here. Going back, that group with Gamble includes Visma and also Aidan Kale. Great to see. He's managed to hang on to the back of these boys. So continue on. The race on Oz, BE electrical entry. He's dropping off the back a little bit now as well. They've got to be careful not to lose the tail of the car in front. Lee Visma nicely tucked up behind Gamble. He'd be quite happy with that position. And the battle in front of that between Hobson and Rattray White. Very, very spicy.
Yeah, I think with Rattray White having his mirrors full of Hobson, he's just losing a little bit of ground to his teammate Jacob O'Reilly, who's in P2. James Scott has opened up about a 1 second lead at the moment, and that's probably going to continue to grow as this lap rolls on.
James Scott comfortably a second out in front of O'Reilly at the moment. O'Reilly slowly catching that a little bit though. And it's cleared out a second and a half from Rattray White. O'Reilly was 500ths faster that lap than Scott, so very, very interesting. Goes a bit deep though. That's going to hurt. Time he's made, he's probably just lost.
I think that front straight gives a good big toe, and he was able to make some good ground up there, but he just went a little bit too deep, as you said, John, and gave away what he gained. And seems to be a big concertina effect on this circuit. It looks like the cars open up a gap and then they look like they're closed right back together, and then they exit a couple of corners and the gap's still there. So very interesting from a viewing perspective, that's for sure. But Brenton Hobson certainly still harassing the back of Zach Rattray White.
Definitely having a very good look at that Vermeulen Motorsport entry. Closes nicely through this middle part of the circuit. But continuing on. Hobo lifting a little bit early there, probably saving fuel a little bit. We do have Coleman off track. Have a look, Super Auto replay here. He's just driven into the sand trap. Looks like gear failure. And the car is stationary. So that will be big for the Super 2 series points as Hobbo's still stuck in the wall. Right, may or may not get a safety car. It's an interesting position. We'll leave that up to race control to sort out.
Yeah, that was a very interesting one, that one. Certainly looked like he lost connection with his wheel or had no steering or something. So, yeah, unfortunate for Dave. He was locked in a pretty tight battle in that Super 2 segment of our championship, and it'll be a shame to not see him finish tonight.
Yeah, very disappointing. As sitting here now, Mulford is got Horton and between him and Stone Street at the moment. So this is where the lead two cars are of the series. Looks like Stone Street about to get the job done, and does. Horton dropping back a little bit. Hey, he'll try and head back down, start getting onto the back of Mulford again. We'll keep an eye on that battle. Scotty Gamble from 95 Sim Sports. He is heading down the start-finish straight away. He's still sitting about half a second back from Brenton Hobson. Jump on the chest cam. Coleman's still sitting on the circuit there, so not sure if he's requesting a tow or not.
I haven't heard anything come over the comms as yet. Tell you who is doing a great job out there, and that is Aidan Kyle, currently sitting in P7. Got a pretty good gap over his teammate at the moment, Joe Mahoney, who's in P8, but Aidan doing an excellent job out there at the moment.
And Coleman's jumped back to the pits. That'll be the end of his night, as we know it. And Gamble here. Ooh, Hobson very loose. Gamble will be liking the look of that. So the lead 8 cars definitely made a good break for it.
Yeah, the big battle on track at the moment is between Timmy Mulford and Troy Stone Street.
That Troy's caught up to the back of him very quickly. Thought that might have taken a lap or two, not a lap. But Stoney definitely applying the pressure here. See the car dance and go light over the crest there. Troy, hang on, that gap now only 2/10. Stone trying to work out where he's going to get the job done.
Yeah, never easy when you're trying to make a move on Timmy Mulford. He's got a very, very wide Commodore, that's for sure, and certainly knows how to place it in defensive places to stop you making a move.
Ooh, almost thought about to look up the inside. It's a great battle between these two drivers.
Yeah, I think Troy's certainly using some smart tactics there, just throwing a bit of a dummy to Tim, and Tim almost went too deep. He did pinch a brake very slightly, but certainly something I'm sure Troy would have noted and will put that in the memory bank for use at another point.
Tim a little bit quicker coming on to the start-finish straight, but Troy should be able to pick up that slipstream now. Close that gap down before we get towards the end. Not quite close enough, but we'll keep that pressure on again for another lap.
I think Timmy run pretty wide off on the entry to the front straight there. I think using one of his off tracks up his sleeve to keep Troy at bay, because I think he knew if he didn't get a great entry there, Troy may well have got him by the end of the straight.
Goes the nose on the inside again. And you can see that gap from Mulford to Mahoney's opened out by a second in the last lap. And Mulford here working very hard in his mirrors. Roy drifts. Oof. Knocking on the door again. And Mulford gets the good drive onto the start-finish straight, a little bit better than what Stone Street has.
It'll be very frustrating for Troy, I'm sure, but Timmy got a good angle coming onto the straight there. He certainly runs a bit wider line and is able to get on that throttle nice and early. So another lap for Troy to scratch his head and think where he's going to get something done here. He came very close that lap, so I think it's just a matter of time before it does happen, and I think it could well happen from just pressure and a slight mistake.
Yeah, doing all the right things, showing the nose. Making Mulford think that's how you'll get the mistake. But Timmy's been around for a fair while. He's a class driver as well, so definitely going to see. And Lewis, great head. I have been thinking that for the last 8 laps, even before the track map in SDK is back to front, so I apologise for that. Not much I can do with that one at the moment.
Of course, we shouldn't forget the third car in this battle, and that's Mark Horton. He's right there to pick up the crumbs if anything goes awry with these two in front.
Yeah, and Dale has come to the party as well. Sorry, Alan Dawson, sorry, has come to the party with Horton. It's now a 4-car battle. McKnight under a bit of pressure from Lofthouse behind. He's not far from the back of this battle as well. Dave Coleman's had the alias black screen of death that Split 3 Vets Boys has been having, so whoever's been using the old adage of a 50-car field is too much, we've had it with Dave Coleman with 16 cars, so.
Yeah, certainly a few gremlins have crept into iRacing. Not sure if it's an iRacing issue or Windows issue or all right, but yeah, certainly with all the updates that have been coming thick and fast via iRacing, yeah, a couple of gremlins have crept in, which is not great, but I'm sure they'll sort them out.
Maybe not enough cars.
Well, that's a possibility.
And Stone Street now side by side. Mulford with the inside line. Oh, leave it too wide. Comes back. I think Stone Street might have this done here.
Completed it, but can he get a good enough drive on this front straight to hold Mulford at bay?
Let's see what Mulford does. Stone Street goes on the defence now, heads to the inside line. Mulford goes inside further, but swings back out. We'll keep a bit of an eye. We'll come back to that battle in a minute. Have a quick look back up the front. Yes, I think Stone Street might be all right there. Jump back up the front for a minute. Zach Rattray White still sitting in third spot. Has his teammate O'Reilly up in front. O'Reilly running very wide there. Hobson still sitting in P4. And of course, these guys tonight, instead of their 17 points, got 20 incident points. They've got a few more to play with. So this group's still staying together. Hobson keeping the pressure right on. Of course,
Yeah, James,
sorry, mate.
I was just about to say, yeah, James Scott has been able to skip away to a couple of second lead there, but he hasn't really opened up a massive margin. And Jacob O'Reilly's still doing a great job in P2, but he does have his teammate Rattray White and Brenton Hobson not too far away, so certainly can't afford any big mistakes here.
No, need to stay with the program. Of course, Hobson, what he's trying to do here is trying to hang on to Rattray White in front. I was going to say, of course, with Brenton Hobson, he's the special guest on the You Can't Park There podcast this week, dropped this evening. So that's the podcast put out by Scotty Rankin and Simon Mesimo. Been listening to a lot of them of late, and definitely forward to hearing what Hobbo has to say.
Yeah, that will be a good listen, that one. Hobbo always full of good common sense ideas and got a lot of experience in iRacing. Got a great stream going himself on Twitch, and yeah, like I said, he's just got a real common sense approach to how he goes about racing.
Yes, definitely does a cracking job. Mad dirt track fan as well. He has two Vermeulen cars in front of him here. Needs to get past one of them if he wants to get his foot on the podium.
Well, I think one of the strongest assets Hobbo has in his racing is his ability to strategise his race, and we've seen that many times here in East Coast. Of course, he's a former two-time champion, I think, and yeah, his fuel and pit stop strategy is usually bang on, and it's generally a slightly different strategy to everybody else. So yeah, looking forward to what he actually does tonight to try and jump these boys. We've got a 55 lap race, so if you're splitting that evenly, that's probably what, about 17 or 18 laps off the top of my head?
17, 18. So still got a little while to go.
And we're currently on lap 12. I'm thinking Hobbo may come in around lap 15.
I might just see how that plays. It's going to go back. It's a little bit of a contest again going on with Timmy Mulford and Stone Street. So this hasn't been left undone yet. Mulford now coming back at WK&P entry.
Alan Dawson's been able to get past Mark Horton, so Dawson's dropped off a little bit off the back, probably in trying to execute that move, but I'm sure if Stone Street and Mulford keep battling, won't be long before Alan is right up on the back of him.
These two putting on a show. These are the two leading cars in the Super 2 series. And usually with Dave Coleman on track as well. Roll blanket over all of them. Dave Coleman out this evening. The dreaded black screen of death. Tighter line by Mulford through the final corner.
Only like he's got a good run here.
Yep. And got the job done. By the looks, going into one. Side by side through Premiera. Into Lagos. And Mulford back in front. Talked about tyre wear. Maybe a little bit of that coming into play for Stone Street at the moment. Just coming back at him again. Goes side. Great side-by-side racing from these two. Very respectful.
Yeah, these boys have put on a real good show, and just goes to show you that you can race side by side and still have an epic battle without doing any damage to anybody. So definitely, yeah, enjoying this battle immensely.
Straight a little bit shallower. The hill, running wide in the background, Alan Dawson, letting the door up for Horton. Expect Mulford to get the good run out of the final corner again. Over the crest now.
Yeah, certainly seems to be Tim's biggest strength on this circuit is his exit onto the entry onto the pit straight and the amount of speed he's able to carry. Stone Street hangs tough this time and is able to maintain.
Great little hotly contested battle. It's going to jump back up the front again. Back and have a look at these guys. Keep a bit of an eye on that. As Hobson's closed the gap a little bit more and Ray Riley has lost 2 spots. Going to see if I can find what happened there on the Supercheap Auto replay. Oh, contact between the teammates. That allows Hobson to come through as well. We'll have a few questions being raised. Team area.
Yeah, it's not something you normally see, but it does happen, and unfortunate for Jacob, he lost a couple of spots there.
Hobart still working quite hard.
With a good run down the straight here.
And Hobbo gets through. Moves himself into P2. But don't expect the Rattray White to not try and get that position back.
guess now that Hobbo's got himself on the podium for now, this may well change the way he thinks about his pit strategy.
Hmm. Of course, don't rule out O'Reilly coming back into this battle here as well.
We've also got Aidan Cale and Anthony Visma in a pretty hotly contested battle at the moment.
Great drive from Aidan. And the Viz working overtime here.
A little bit of contact there. Aidan backs out of it. Let's Anthony's straighten up and get underway again. But yeah, definitely Aidan seems to have really found his kind of comfort zone around this track where other drivers may not be so comfortable.
So lap 16, these guys providing plenty of entertainment still from a small field.
Yeah, there's been some good door-to-door action here tonight, that's for sure. And yeah, Hobbo certainly looks like he's got some good speed in that car. He's not sure if the Vermeulen boys are struggling with tyres or the car's just not quite right for race pace, but Hobbo certainly looks like he's got some good speed in the car at the moment. So we're on lap 16, so I don't think we're that far away from seeing some pit stops unfold.
And it wouldn't too much longer. Definitely interesting to see how these guys, if they've saved any fuel, they might be able to jump a little bit. Hobson here starting to get a bit of clear air.
And speaking of clear air, looks like Troy Stone Street as well has been able to open up a little bit of a gap on Timmy Mulford to ease the pressure on himself there.
And probably spreading out a little bit. Aidan Cale is where the battle is at though still with Visma. That's the other second battle we have. Noticing in the background. Sorry, mate.
Yeah, I was about to say the first one to blink out of them front five was Scotty Gamble, who's made his pit stop, and we're seeing Jacob O'Reilly in the lane at the moment along with Anthony Visma.
Gamble would be looking for some clear air. Should have plenty of. Ryan pick over some times here. O'Reilly, Visma shuffling back. They're about to head out down the pit exit. Back on Aidan Cale. He's got a teammate behind him. Mahoney.
Riley's off the jacks, heading down the lane. Not sure where Scotty Gamble is at the moment. Scotty Gamble does get a jump on him, so pretty significant undercut there. Not sure what their stationary times were.
Quick look at that one for you, Mark. Stationary times. It was 5 seconds difference. So Gamble was 5 seconds slower. Sorry, 5 seconds less than what O'Reilly was. So
Explain the big gap.
Yep. Expect that to balance out in the last stop. Gamble looking quite comfortable. John Fillingham has just been passed by O'Reilly.
Good to see John. Gave a couple of flicks on the brake pedal, let Jacob know that he's clear to come past, and gave Jacob plenty of space. So great work there from John Fillingham.
Done very well. Then jump on with Dawson. Still under a fair bit of pressure from Mark Horton behind. That gap's closing quite quickly as he rolls pit lane. Dawson's the next one to go in. Aidan Cale still doing really well. Super 2 drivers.
I'm not sure what happened to Adam. He was tucked up behind Visma there for a while, and now he's fallen back into the clutches of his teammates. I'm not sure if he had an off somewhere.
Didn't see anything. He's of course going into the lane. Mahoney definitely a little bit quicker that time round. And the other surprising one, Mark, is Hobson goes again. He has done a longer, normally one of the guys that'll go in first for the undercut, but he's gone the long route.
Yeah, I thought once he got his nose in front of the Vermeulen boys, I was pretty sure he would have changed his strategy. I'm sure if he was in P4, he would have probably went in when Scotty Gamble went in. We do see that often from Brenton, but yeah, now he's got his nose in front. He will just try and minimise tyre wear, save as much fuel as he can, and try and do some pretty close back-to-back, not back-to-back, but run his pit stops fairly close and just give himself some good tyres for that final stint.
Yeah, very sound strategy. Just going to check on Aidan Cale. He still has.
He just opened up the door then for his teammate to come through, so I'm not sure if he's struggling with tyres. Maybe it is time for him to come in.
Mahoney looking very composed. Of course, this is what we call the Enduro round here at East Coast. So it is a longer race being goes as well. So these guys definitely have to work for it tonight.
Yeah, certainly a pretty tough night to be doing 55 laps around here, being a new circuit. Certainly will test the concentration of these boys.
This will be a big night Thursday night, doing the same volume of laps in Vets. Jump on with James Scott. He's really only still 1.6 seconds ahead of Hobson. He's doing relatively well. Hobbo hanging on. Of course, last lap, the James Scott was a 1:48.56 and a 1:48 flat. Or Hobson was last time through. Lap time's falling off a bit for these guys. You'd expect that when you're 20 laps into a stint.
So the boys who are pitted that were running at the front there, Jacob O'Reilly, Scott Gamble, they're all doing mid 46s, whereas Hobson or James Scott's still doing a mid 46, but Hobson with a high 46 there. So yeah, that's not a huge difference on the boys who have got new tyres, and I think that's probably Hobbo's strategy, is just allow them guys that did pit early, let them use their tyres up over the first 4 or 5 laps, and then just make sure you stabilise your run. Don't do anything silly to heat the tyres up while they're old, and yeah, just try and get back out in a good position, as we see Scott and Hobson, Kale in the lane at the moment.
And Stone Street. So starting to see the front runners roll in. So where is Scotty Gamble? Just coming around through the Gulp corner, final turn, as Scott is already rolling out of the lane. And where's Gamble? Here he comes. And see Gamble in the background. So we're talking about 1.5 seconds. So hopefully, it'll be interesting to see this one roll out. Hobson staying in the pit for a very long time. Stationary.
Yeah, I was just looking at that. I'm hoping it's not an issue for him. He's off the Jackson going.
Sort of the time frame where you might be thinking maybe a time penalty, I think. He's back out on track with a lot of work to do.
Yeah, just wondering if that was a stop and hold for him.
Gonna put up the pit times. So of course Hobson stationary for 56 seconds. And Scott is 20, Gamble 21, 26 for O'Reilly, 20 for Stone Street. So all around that mark. As Rattray White is down the lane now. And that leaves Joe Mahoney and Horton and Mulford, the only drivers are not to complete their first pit stop. Joe Mahoney. A lap or two with the number 1 next to his name under the belt. Earned himself some bragging rights. There's Mulford and Rattray White in the pit lane. Rattray White has come back out a good seconds behind his teammate O'Reilly, or 10 seconds almost. He's dropped right off the pace. And of course Rattray White 28, so only 2 seconds between their stops. Stone Street 14 seconds behind, sitting in 7th. And Stoney has managed to jump Kale, leader of the Super 2 class.
Definitely think Brenton Hobson had a speeding in pit lane then, because looking at the pit lane speed limit, which is 60 kilometres an hour, once he crossed the line, look, I just went and looked at a replay, he was still doing 80 kilometres an hour, so
Ouch.
no doubt that's what's happened. He's got the big fine.
Yep. Are you be happy about that?
Not after working so hard to put himself in a good position. Guess a bit of commentator's curse there.
Yes. As Joe Mahoney continues on his merry way, lap 23 of 55. Definitely have to be out of fuel very shortly.
Yep, Mark Horton comes in the lane.
Hobson all the way back in 10th. Probably up in the 9th now. Definitely a lot of work to do. James Scott still hanging on to 5-second lead now from Scott Gamble. O'Reilly back in the next position. So these boys definitely starting to spread themselves out a little bit here.
Yeah, Joe Mahoney certainly getting his money's worth out of this tank of fuel.
Yep. Getting the bragging rights. P1 next to his name. And I think he is seeing that the meter is reading E, so he's in the lane now. Done very well. Brenton Hobson is in 9th. He's about to come up behind Alan Dawson here. See how Hobbo goes. Looks a different line through this part of the circuit. And gets the overtake done quite easily.
I think Alan made it reasonably easy for Hobbo there, gave him a pretty wide berth and just allowed Hobbo to get on with his race. Alan, pretty smart racer and knows that Hobbo's not the guy he's actually racing tonight.
There's here with Stone Street. He's got himself past Mahoney. Teammate Kale has gone past as well. And Hobson. So Mahoney shuffles back to 9th. So probably went backward a couple of spots with that longer stint. Big shout out to Sean McNamara as well. He's jumped in the chat. As Stone Street now after the round of pit stops has moved into 5th position. So a little bit of a shuffle on the board. As well. Sorry, mate.
Yeah, I was about to say, and of course there's still a lot of racing to go tonight. We're currently on lap 24 of 55, so we've still got 31 laps of racing to unfold, so still plenty of time for people to adjust their strategies, pounce on other drivers' errors and vault yourself up the grid a little bit.
Yeah, definitely the way to go. And of course, this is the middle stage of the race, so probably looking somewhere around lap 36, I think, is roughly where we'll be seeing these guys thinking about their next stop or their final stop. And then we'll see a little bit of a correction in the fuel numbers as well, which will level it all back up again. So this stage of the race, these boys need to be looking after these cars while they're on the heavier fuel cycle and looking after those tyres in particular. So you will need them. And Stoney here doing a reasonable job. Just going to come back, check on Alan Dawson. He had Hobson get past him just shortly ago. And then he has his teammate behind. Of course, in Joe Mahoney, 6 laps difference between these tyres, so probably start to expect Dawson's tyres to start to fall off a little bit shortly.
Just wondering with Anthony Visma as well whether he may have picked up a penalty because he's plummeted down the order as well.
Definitely a long way back at 14th. And his pit time was 1 minute and 8 seconds, so that would be a 40-second stop and hold. Plus 28 seconds of fuel. That would make sense to a penalty.
certainly not what you want on your first pit stop of the night. So the only benefit is, like I said, there's still plenty of laps to make your way forward, and you just don't want to be making that same mistake on your second stop.
You definitely don't want to be. Just going to jump on board for a minute. James Scott, our race leader.
Scotty Gamble's worked himself into a very nice position here, currently sitting P2 after starting, I think, P5 on the grid. So Scotty was the first to pit out of that pit stop sequence. So be interesting to see come the second stop where he falls, because at the moment he's in a very good position, and he's actually driving extremely well across all series at the moment. Probably the best I've seen him drive in the time I've known Scotty. He just seems to be doing everything right within himself, so which is great to see. He's doing a great job out there for 9.5 Sim Sport boys.
It's Scott, a current V8's Split 1 champion, so very experienced driver. And he's got himself a nice little 2.5 second gap ahead of Jacob O'Reilly for Vermeulen Motorsport. Riley working very hard to try and close that gap down. Slowly been chipping away at it.
Yeah, Jacob certainly seems to have the medal on his teammate at the moment, or tonight, Zach Rattray-White. Jacob just seems to be more comfortable at race pace than Rattray-White at the moment, but we did see a little bit of coming together between the teammates earlier.
Yeah, it definitely was an interesting knock between the two of them. Hobson has managed to close the gap now down to under a second between himself and Kale. Aiden, of course, driving really well as one of our newer drivers in the series. Sitting in 9th, up 7 spots. Their hardest charger so far.
We're about the halfway point of the race at the moment. So yeah, Hobbo certainly closed down that gap, and I'm expecting to get the job done on Aiden relatively quickly, and then move his way forward to Stone Street.
Yeah, Hobson definitely on the move.
Yep, in the right direction this time, unlike when he made his pit stop.
Yeah, let's see where he gets the job done here against Aiden Kale. And nicely done.
Well, that wasn't too difficult for him. Got a good exit there, and just made the move on the straight, and probably not a bad thing for Aiden to not battle too hard and lose too much time, because if he can just hang on to Hobbo here for a while, he'll get dragged up towards Troy Stone Street.
Yeah, definitely looking for the move to happen. And the other close battle we have at the moment, of course, is Timmy Mulford and Martin Lofthouse. So Lofthouse, this is a battle for 11 and 10. And Mulford with a bit of work to do, with Stone Street sitting in 5th for the Super 2 battle and Aidan Cale in between the two. He opens the battle up in the Super 2 Championship, particularly with Dave Coleman having equipment failure earlier in the race. Of course, Dave only circulating 3 laps, which will mean he'll be classified as a DNF finisher.
Yeah, so interesting. Stone Street and Mulford had that battle for many laps earlier on in the race, and then Troy managed to get the move done. Just looking at the stop time, so Troy actually stopped a couple of seconds longer than Tim. So, and Troy's in 5th and Tim's in 10th. So, not sure if Tim went off track somewhere and lost a little bit of ground, but certainly has lost a lot of ground with the person he was racing earlier on.
Yeah, and only 1 lap difference as well between their stops as well. So it's not sort of the case of overshooting it or undercutting it too much. But Troy now starting to have Hobson having a look behind him. So last lap round, Hobson a 147.2, Stone Street a 148.7. 4/10 difference. So Hobson absolutely on a mission here. Put Hobson's lap time in comparison. Last time through, James Scott, our race leader, was a 147.3. So Hobson and 1/10 faster than Scott at the moment as well.
Boiling blood, maybe you can get them lap times sometimes. I'm sure Brent is a bit cut with himself after putting himself in P2 and then throwing it all away by getting a black flag for speeding in pit lane.
All over the back of Stone Street now. Trying to work out where he can get the job done on Stone. He pulls out alongside and comes through with a great overtake by Stone Street. So not by Stone Street, of Stone Street by Hobson.
Which was very similar to what we saw Troy Stone Street doing earlier with Timmy Mulford in that exact same section of the track.
And just going to go a bit further back. This guy here's down 8 spots. Anthony Visma. Not a great night for the Viz. Battling away at the moment with the People's Champion, Jamie McKnight.
Yeah, no, Anthony certainly had good pace in practice and qualifying and early on in the race, but again, another victim to that pit lane radar gun, and yeah, dropped a ton of spots on time, which will be frustrating for Anthony, because he is driving very well at the moment, and he just got to cut out them. You know, he seems to just make that one mistake per race that really costs him big time, and if he can cut that out. I think we'll see. Oh, sideways.
Oh, whoa. But we did talk about how the undulation change could put the car off balance. Classic example there. How we didn't hit McKnight, I do not know.
Yeah, and I saw Brenton Hobson do a similar thing on his quali lap earlier. So clearly the car gets very light coming over that crest there, and a little bit too much throttle, and she just throws itself around.
Very lucky not to make contact with McKnight. He's going to jump on board with Mulford now. That battle with Lofthouse starting to tighten up a bit more.
Yeah, Martin Lofthouse, a bit of a quiet achiever out there tonight, just circulating without making too much noise, and suddenly finds himself in a nice battle with Tim Mulford.
Yeah, good to see the JWM entry. Doing another good drive. Quite a few of these guys we've got in this field have been improving week by week. Of course, very unique league in the sense that there's no aids. Other leagues, some of the other leagues around where the guys have the ability to use aids, assist the car. Lofthouse having a good hard look. And of course, we'll be at Jerez next week, which will be another busy track. This time, Jerez, of course, being in Spain, so in the same part of the world. But it will be the precursor to the Pro Series. So expect a very big, hotly contested field of top drivers next week.
Yeah, Jerez is not a brand new track, but it is one of the newer tracks on the iRacing server, and certainly a great track for the V8's, and produces some very good racing. So yeah, expect a reasonably good sized field next week, but we're here tonight, and in fact I'll be in this part of the world come August, so hoping to see some nice sunshine in Spain, Portugal, Turkey, a few other places.
It's a bit of a geographic lesson. This part of Lagos, Portugal, is down in the southern point, so not quite inside the Mediterranean, but still out in the Atlantic Ocean, facing to the south. Quite a tourist area, a lot of golf courses, this beautiful motor racing circuit, a lot of other touristy things to do, including beaches as well. You'll be in for a lovely trip, Mark.
Yep, certainly looking forward to it, and yeah, it's a shame I can't pack a V8 in the plane with me and go for a few laps around this circuit while I'm there, but in any case, yeah, it'll be good fun, and yeah, certainly I think, you know, I think this track has certainly produced some decent side-by-side racing tonight, and we've seen some good overtakes, and I think this track will probably be used for V8's more often than not.
Just a bit of a recap. James Scott is our race leader at the moment. He has got himself out to the standard 10-second or 13, 14-second lead from Scott Gamble. Gamble is 1.4 seconds up the road from Vermeulen Motorsports' Jacob O'Reilly. Jacob not too far behind, sitting in attacking distance as we start to line up for this next round of pit stops. O'Reilly, of course, has himself 6 seconds up the road from his teammate Zach Rattray White. Rattray White at the moment is sitting about 18 seconds ahead of Brenton Hobson, who we believe had to take a penalty for speeding in pit lane during his first stop. Hobbo is about 2.5 seconds ahead of Troy Stone Street, so he hasn't quite pulled away from Stoney like we thought he would. And then Aidan Cale is sitting in 7th, second of our Super 2 drivers. Then we see Joe Mahoney in 8th. He is doing relatively well. He's only about 3.6 seconds behind Cale. Alan Dawson up 7 spots, having a cracking drive. Our current Super 2 champion in the series. He's doing well, working his way back through the field. And Timmy Mulford rounds out our top 10. He's sitting just over a second ahead of Martin Lofthouse. And after that, of course, is Mark Horton, Jamie McKnight, Anthony Vismer and John Fillingham. So that rounds up the grid as we start to lead into our second round of stops. And of course, the first man heading down the lane is Scotty Gamble. Went early last time, so definitely about to start to see some action, Mark, and work out where the lay of the land is.
Yeah, well, it certainly worked for Scotty that first time out. So, as someone famous on Australian radio once said, if you're on a good thing, stick to it.
Speaking of on a good thing and not sticking to it, Martin Lofthouse has just been involved in a crash. Let's go into the Supercheap Auto replay. Coming up through to the corner a little bit hot and deep and puts the car sideways. So that sees him drop back from the battle that we'd been watching with Mulford. So that'd be a little bit disappointing for Martin, but car still straight and in one piece and plenty of time to fight back.
Yeah, it certainly looks like a track where it's very easy to unload the car and rotate it and end up facing the wrong direction. So bad luck there for Martin, but like I say, he's still got a straight car. He's still got plenty of laps to go. We've still got 20 laps around here to go, so I think he should be able to settle himself down and just get on with the job of what he's got to do tonight.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to seeing how it plays out moving forward. As Jacob O'Reilly is now the man heading down the lane, so he's gone in for his second stop. So starting to see these guys roll out. Rattray White drives past him. Teammate takes the P2 position.
Yeah, so Scotty Gamble's pitted with, he still had 21 laps remaining on this set of tyres, which is a fairly long sit. Not sure, I think Mahoney did about 23 earlier on.
Yep.
So certainly doable, but the tyres I'm sure won't be feeling crash hot at the end of the race.
Yeah, it's still a long way to go for the 9.5 SimSport entry on screen. Sitting in 9th, but he is the first guy to do that second stop. As you start to see a few of the other boys roll through the lane. And O'Reilly's definitely come out in front of him a little bit there, still Mark as well. O'Reilly's still about 5 seconds up the road.
Yeah, well, that'll be the 5-second difference I think we talked about in the pit stops earlier on in the race, where Scotty did take a bit less fuel, so that has evened itself out immediately.
Yeah, still a fair way to go. Keep an eye on James Scott. He must be planning his trip down the lane. Hey, James isn't a big fan on fuel saving.
So just looking at them stop times, it was what was about 6.5 seconds difference between Scott Gamble and Jacob O'Reilly in stationary time that time round. So yeah, it's still a lot of work here for Scotty now to try and maintain a podium position if he can. Sure, Rattray White will be working as hard as possible to unseat Scotty off the podium if he can.
Scotty looked very composed behind the wheel. Always very smooth with his inputs. Forward here. Australia's best V8 sim racers. And Gamble trying to work his way through some traffic now. It's not lap traffic, so these guys may or may not yield. I mean that Gamble's money second stop and you haven't. Definitely strategy. Right. Alan Dawson playing smart there.
Yeah, I think, you know, the guys in the midfield battle certainly know who they're racing and who they're not, and it's never wise to try and hold up somebody who is, you know, clearly quicker than you, and you probably learn a lot more by trying to tuck in behind them and follow them rather than trying to battle them and then end up ruining your race and their race is a possibility.
And Joe Mahoney now starting to catch up onto the back of Aidan Cale again. Back of his teammate. So these B electrical race on Oz entries.
Alan Dawson enters the lane for his final stop.
Busy night for the boys in race control this evening.
Have been worked off their feet.
Joe Mahoney here looking very composed.
So yeah, the first 6 cars still have to make their second compulsory pit stop. First of our 2 stoppers is Jacob O'Reilly, who's currently sitting in P7, followed by Scotty Gamble, who's in P8. So yeah, James Scott, Rattray White, Brenton Hobson, Troy Stone Street, Aidan Cale, Joe Mahoney still yet to make that second stop.
Let's jump on board with Accelerate Sim Racing's Mark Horton. He's not too far behind now, Timmy Mulford. It's that gap a little bit.
Mark was about 1 second quicker on that lap, so that's a pretty big gain in anyone's terms on track.
And Lofthouse in the lane. course, with Stone Street and James Scott in the lane as well. So Stone Street sitting up in 4th spot at the moment. Jimmy Mulford can't really afford to have too many guys get between him and Stone Street.
And we've got Jacob O'Reilly coming up onto the back of Aidan Cale and Joe Mahoney. So Jacob will want to try and clear these two as quickly as possible.
Yeah, Steve, we're aware of the track map. SDK can't do too much about it at the moment. As he gets through Scott Stone Street in the lane. Definitely doing my head in a little bit as well.
Aidan Cale comes into the lane as well.
Yep, probably a good move. As Visma is in as well. So Mahoney now has O'Reilly chasing up behind him. And just waiting to see where Stone Street rolls out. Still on the jacks. Cale still on the jacks. And Visma is rolling. So not too bad. We'll just keep an eye on where these guys all sit when they roll out. Cale's going to come out in front of Stone Street.
I thought I saw another black flag against Anthony Visner's name there when I was looking at the stats on iRacing.
Surely can't do it twice. And Visma.
There's a 56 second station, 56 and a half second stationary.
That sounds about right. 102, yeah. Oh, God. Please no, Anthony. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong button. Lap 38 is when they went in. Go back to that one.
Not sure if Greg Favell's spotting for him tonight, but I'm sure Greg will be having saying a few choice words if he is.
I definitely would be. As Rattray White, Hobson and Mahoney have all now gone into the lane for their final stops as well. So we're just about going to have them all roll out to finalise what's going on. Seeing some interesting stop times. Cale only stopped for 11 seconds, Stone Street for 22. That's how come that gap got closed. Scott stopped for 23 then. O'Reilly only for 15.69, sorry. 22.3 for Gamble. 12.6 for Rattray White. And Hobson is in pit exit at the moment with a 23.5 stop. And Mahoney, I think he's about to exit the pit lane as well.
Rattray White has come out just behind Scotty Gamble, so this is going to be the battle for the final podium position, and I think with Rattray White having tyres a lot younger than Gamble's, Gamble might struggle to hold on here, but Scotty's a very smart and good racer, so we'll just see how this unfolds over the next few laps.
Yeah, 6 laps difference between the tyres. You'd expect the tyre Gamble's really starting to kick in about 2 or 3 laps time. Ready?
I think the big problem for Gamble's going to be that big long front straight.
And side by side straight away. And that is Rattray White joining teammate Jacob O'Reilly on the podium.
Yeah, we saw Zach go very wide on the exit of the corner there, sacrificing a incident point to get the run, and he was able to do that and got a good exit and yeah, superior speed down the straight. Made it look fairly simple in the end.
Yes, did it quite convincingly. So that sees those two lads on the podium. It's going to go back. Mahoney, he also tied up here in this little battle pack. His teammate still. These two have not been too far apart all night.
No, the teammates have had a pretty decent battle with each other tonight. And Aiden certainly has had the upper hand most of the race, except for the back end of the stints where it seems Joe is a little bit more comfortable on used tyres. So nothing separating him at the moment. So I'm sure Aiden will want to hang on for bragging rights within the team.
They would definitely be working very hard. And Hobson's managed to get himself past Mulford. Mulford and McKnight, the last two drivers still to do that final stop. Not going to be leaving it too much longer as Mulford comes in this time by. And just check on Hobson. He's got Campbell a long way up the road, so Hobbo's definitely hasn't made up for his indiscretion in pit lane either. But sitting comfortably in fifth. Aidan Cale, he has driven the socks off it tonight. His teammate here, Joe Mahoney, they've got themselves 3.5 seconds ahead of Stone Street. And Stoney in the Super 2 battle has managed to put Orton in between himself and Mulford. So that will rock the boat on the points table a little bit. Timmy battling very hard a bit further back. Knight in the lane now. So that sees the last of our stoppers clear it out. Perspective of fuel strategy, we are racing to the end as Retro White does a 146.599. Second faster than Gamble. Definitely battling very fast up the front. Trey White though, he's getting himself up the road a little bit. Retro White, very composed driver. Making this circuit look very easy, Mark. Too much of a drama there.
No, like I said earlier, the cream always rises to the top, and yeah, them front running boys certainly make it look very simple, and it certainly doesn't feel like it's an easy track to drive with, like we said earlier, the blind crest, blind corners, the change of elevation, off camber corners, all looks like it's car not suited to the V8, but we've seen some great racing tonight, and if you know how to steer these cars properly, then I'm sure it's a lot of fun out there.
Mm. It's the closest battle on track at the moment. Aidan Cale and his teammate Joe Mahoney from Race on Oz. Lap 45 or 55. So Cale now starting to put a little bit of time on Mahoney. The gap opening up a little bit. Gonna go back to Stone Street. Stone Street hasn't managed to close the gap down to Mahoney. Troy doing really well here. Happy with the result in terms of building on that Super 2 championship.
Yeah, definitely doing everything right at the moment to keep his position in the championship title alive. He's one of his nemesis for the championship, Dave Coleman, had a technical issue and ended up only completing 3 laps, which was a shame for Dave. And the other one in that battle is Timmy Mulford, and I think Troy's currently 3 or 4 spots ahead of Tim Mulford. So that battle for that championship will certainly come down to the wire.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing how that plays out over the last couple of races. Championship definitely getting to the pointy end of the season. Next week off at Jerez, and then we have the final round at Winton. Will be another interesting layout, but well known in this part of the world.
Yep, definitely well known, and well known to the drivers. V8's have been there many, many times since its release, and as we know, it's a very, very tough, twisty circuit. Not many overtaking opportunities, but it is a track where you just have to stay in the hunt, apply pressure, and look for that one small mistake. So. But like I said, all the drivers have been there many times, so there'll be no excuses for that one.
Definitely no excuses. And it'll be a good way to finish off the season too, coming back to a small, tight technical circuit where a good lap time makes a big difference. So looking forward to seeing how that plays out, particularly the Super 2 battle we've been watching tonight. James Scott can't afford a bad round, but he has definitely done himself all of the right things tonight. He's comfortably sitting 13.5 seconds out in front of Jacob O'Reilly. He can't afford a bad round, as I said, leading in, but when you put a bullet next to your name, hopefully he doesn't put a commentator's curse on him. No, Can't do any better than that. So great drive again from James tonight. O'Reilly, Retro White, been really good. Formula One fans out there should be pretty happy with how their charges have gone. Like I said, you got to learn this track quick for these guys. Scotty Gamble from 95 Sim Sports, sole team representative tonight. He's running around in fourth. Drive from Scotty. Brenton Hobson, he had a pit lane infringement. Saw him go from the podium back to this 20 seconds behind. Slowly chipping away, getting a bit closer as he goes, but won't get the job done. In sixth, Aidan Cale, my driver of the night. The rookie in the series, the Super 2 driver, sitting in P6, up one spot from where he started. He has had a very solid night, played the middle stint quite well in terms of his fuel strategy. Joe Mahoney, his teammate, sitting back in seventh. Joe, of course, quite well known at SRW area and some Scops races this season. He's had a fairly good, consistent drive as well. They've managed to clear out 3.5 seconds from Stone Street. Our Super 2 leader, sitting in eighth. He'll be quite happy how he's travelling this evening. Alan Dawson in seventh. Alan, our current Super 2 champion, running in the Pro Series this season. He's up 7 spots, started from the rear of the grid. Pretty chuffed with his performance. He has definitely driven well and put some good moves on early in the race. Crowd favourite Mark Horton in 10th position. Great drive. I think this is Mark's second or third round outing with East Coast, so he'd be pretty happy with that. Well, Super 2 driver here to support his teammate Anthony Visma. He's had a shocking evening. And Martin Lofthouse has just managed to get himself past Timmy Mulford and lapped car in the middle here as well, so it'll play into this a bit. James Scott working his way through this group. After Mulford, back in 13th, the People's Champion, Jamie McKnight. Jamie definitely doing relatively well. Drops in without too much practice being put in, but drops in and races with us from time to time. It's great to have Jamie on board. John Fillingham, rookie in the series, in V8 Veterans this season as well. He has done very well this evening, sitting in 14th, up one spot, represented himself really well. And the last man circulating on track, of course, is Anthony Visma in 15th. A couple of pit lane infringements made his evening very, very difficult, but he has continued to push on as Lofthouse still managing to hang on to Mulford. We'll see how that one plays out at the end. And O'Reilly now starting to come under a little bit of pressure from Rattray White as we come into the final 6.5 laps of the race.
Yeah, Zach certainly has been able to close that gap significantly over the last couple of laps. Zach just throwing caution to the wind and using up all his... he's picked up a slowdown with that exit off the final corner, so he's going to have to let that gap open up about. He's tried to use one of his incident points, but he actually ended up picking up a slowdown.
That hurts. Let's just jump back on my own. He's closed the gap again back up the Kale. That had opened up a little bit before. These two pitting one lap apart. Man to keep an eye on. Gamble pitted on lap 34. Most of the guys around him all pitted on lap 40.
Yeah, I think, Scotty Gamble did roll the dice on the strategy, and it was certainly worth an attempt, because if he didn't, he would have ended up where he is now anyway. He did manage to just come out in front of Rattray White, but just didn't have the the tyres under him to sustain it, and Rattray White ended up getting past fairly easily, but certainly was worth a roll of the dice for Scotty Gamble. He gambled, didn't quite pay off, but certainly been a strong race for him again.
Yeah, definitely driven very solid, Scott.
Sure where everyone's incident limits are at, but I'm guessing people are probably starting, a few are probably starting to get close to going through their 20 points.
And of course hit that 20-point mark and he sent down the lane.
But Timmy Mulford's, let's see, has either disconnected, maybe he's dropped out, I'm not sure.
Ooh, that's not great. You wouldn't be too happy with that.
No, definitely not what you want at the end of the night when you've only got 5 or 6 laps to go. After all that effort to get a disconnect, I'm not sure if he did, but I'm presuming that's what's happened.
It's completed more than the 75% required, so he will be classified as a finisher. That'll give him some points, but that will hurt the championship battle.
Yeah, most definitely, and that will be a shot in the arm for Troy Stone Street, that's for sure.
As these two have been close all night. Going to go back on to Rattray White. He is now closing in again on the teammate O'Reilly.
4 laps left to try and secure one more place forward. So we did see a little bit of contact between the two teammates earlier, and Jacob O'Reilly did lose 2 spots, and I'm sure they won't want to repeat that.
Yeah, we're definitely trying to avoid that situation. A little bit loose there in the exit by O'Reilly. Rattray White trying to capitalise a bit on it. Expecting team orders probably to be kicking in at some stage here.
Jacob's certainly looking a little bit squirrely under a little bit of pressure from his teammate.
And heading down the start finish straight away. Cap's closing. And onto the brakes. Through turn 1. Up into the Lagos corner. The gap now down to 3/10.
I'm not sure what the lap difference is in tyres here, but Zach's certainly looking a lot stronger, and Jacob just cannot seem to find a place where he can keep the car straight at the moment.
Yeah, let's start again. 5 laps difference. So
Yeah.
Zach's tyres are 5 laps younger.
Definitely a big advantage.
Hmm. See, this time down the straight. Start finish straight away for the penultimate lap. So definitely running out of time here for Rattray White to get the job done.
Yeah, and Jacob certainly is in no mood to give it to his teammate by the look of it.
Of course, if you're a Vermeulen fan, the last thing you want to see is both of these cars off.
We've only got one more lap after this lap, so I'm sure Jacob's going to defend very staunchly if he can, and just try and hang on for one final run around. Rattray White certainly applying the blowtorch.
Definitely looking left, looking right. Very, very racy. Gets the overlap. Get the acceleration out of the corner. And of course, our race leader has started the white flag lap as these boys now come across the start finish, onto the start finish straight away. Can't see Rattray White getting it done, but it's not all over yet. Battle, of course, for second and third. Definitely could make another go at it. See them side by side last lap.
Yeah, I think Jacob's certainly putting as much stress through them tyres as he possibly can without actually doing any damage to them. He's been very deep a few times, and another couple of inches and he probably wouldn't have got the car stopped. So he's absolutely driving to the limit at the moment, and Rattray White is forcing him to keep doing it.
And of course, our race leader, James Scott, he is well and truly way ahead in the back half of the circuit. Not too far away from the finish, but the battle is still back here for 2 and 3. And big lunge, does he get it done? Side by side. Come back and have a look. I don't think Rattray White's going to get it done. But this is the man, the myth, the legend, James Scott. Comes across the line. And let's see Vermeulen boys side by side. Oh, very tight. But Jacob O'Reilly will hang on for P2. P3 goes to Rattray White. And P4, Scotty Gamble, good drive from him. And Hobson has managed to fight his way all the way back up to P5. Recovery from Hobbo. Pretty chuffed with that.
Yeah, I'd be happy with the recovery, but not with the result. That's for sure. He certainly had the speed to be on the podium tonight, and just let himself down with that pit lane penalty.
And Aidan Cale is going to manage to hold off his teammate Joe Mahoney. And Stone Street will come home the leader, second place for our Super 2 guys in 8th. And we'll have Dawson, Horton, and then of course Lofthouse, McKnight, Fillingham, Visma have all finished across the line. So very
Great drive from Aidan Cale there tonight. He certainly punched above his weight there tonight, and got a good result. So some really good racing there tonight. We saw at the end there with Rattray, White and O'Reilly that you know, the good close racing is certainly something that can happen around this circuit, and definitely look forward to seeing some more racing here in the V8s. And I think it's certainly a track that's going to be used a little bit more in the future.
Yeah, it definitely does provide for some good overtaking, some good side-by-side racing. Yeah, definitely looking forward to seeing how it plays itself out on Thursday night, bets, and we'll see where we go from there. But the man, the myth, the legend, James Scott, did the old rock up and have a go, and has taken P1 again. Well done, James.
Thank you.
How did you find the Portimao Algarve circuit?
Yeah, I don't know. I sort of bought the track. I don't know. 45 minutes left in practice. Got to learn where to go. Yeah, I'd never driven here before ever, so I had no idea where the corners went. And yeah, that race was really, really long.
Yeah, it was a long race. It was one of our two, what we're calling the enduro. So you did really well, mate. You should be pretty happy with that one. Anyone you want to give a shout out to?
Yep. All the guys at Lobs Esports, Speed Cafe, Rocco Performance, Hybrid Racing Simulations, you guys for the broadcast, the series admin, and the rest of the guys on the podium.
Thanks very much, James. And 2 rounds to go, mate. That championship starting to get closer again.
Yeah. No idea what the points are like. I sort of just rock up and drive, and I don't know, see what happens at the end. But I think I've had pretty good results for other than the 2 I couldn't make it. So yeah,
Yep.
Hopefully someone looking pretty good.
Doing very well. Then, of course, the man in second place, under all the pressure there at the end from his teammate, Jacob O'Reilly. How are you, Jacob?
Sweaty, mate. That was a long race. And just before we go on, so I don't know what James is talking about. I've had some decent. I don't think he's lost a race that he's gone in. I think he's finished first in every single one of them.
That's who he turned up. Didn't turn up.
Yeah. James will give us a go soon, I'm sure.
He's driven well, and you drove really well. How did you find that one? Because you were under a lot of pressure there at the end from Zach.
Yeah. My tyre wear wasn't great. Zach is much better than me when grip's gone, I think. But yeah, it was really, really cool. Like, it's nice knowing that we're both going to race each other clean, and we both went hard. And yeah, it was definitely a long race. 55 laps is a lot.
And of course, you had contact between the two of you early on.
Oh yeah, it happens. There's not much grip on the inside there. A lot of dust and dirt and stuff, and it happens.
Yep, it happens. Yep, no worries. And Zach, how did you find that one?
Yeah, it was good. Ready for another one.
Ready for another one? Of course, next week.
The joys of youth.
Yes, thinking that. So next week, boys, we are off to Perez, which of course lines up with the Pro Series being on the Wednesday night. How do you think that one's going to go?
Should be pretty good. Me and Jack, that's a pretty good track for us. We put in a lot of hours so far, testing and building a setup, and yeah, it feels pretty good at the moment. So just finishing the final stages of practice, and yeah, looking forward to it.
That sounds good. Anyone you boys want to give a shout out to?
You go, Zach.
Yeah, we got a long list of sponsors. So, Vermilion Motorsports, doing okay. Burb Designs, Supernova Motorsports, Hilo Setup, and Vermilion X Coaching as well. Fire up.
Fire up.
Too easy. Thanks very much, boys. Been good having you guys come in and have a chat to us. And of course,
So that's
huge thank you as well to you, Mark, again for keeping me company with another great night of racing. And a huge thank you to everybody out in the chat this evening and all the other drivers on track. Very, very good quality skill of driving tonight. I don't recall race control being involved in anything, to be honest. And of course, a huge thank you to them because they have to turn up and be here and be involved. And of course, a huge thank you to everybody out watching and the league admins. So, who would you say was your driver of the night, Mark?
I think, James Scott obviously is certainly a cut above the rest, but I thought Aidan Cale definitely drove a great race tonight. He qualified well, he held his own during the race, didn't make any major mistakes, and I think for me, Aidan certainly is a front runner for driver of the night.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that one. On that note, Mark, with Aidan having driver of the night, we might say good night to everybody else, and we'll see everybody again for what I think will be a big field and an action-packed Perez. See everybody again next Tuesday night. Thanks for watching.
There's no arguing that people love their cars.
We weren't arguing.
They talk about their cars, sing about their cars. Some people even look like their car. Whether it's an old car, new old car, fast car, family car, electric car, race car, two-wheel car, no-wheel car, or a car you know's parked around here somewhere. People who love their cars love to tinker with them. Some people tinker big, some people tinker small, some people tinker some degree between those two variables.
Whose voice is that?
And that's where Supercheap Auto comes in. We've been helping people tinker for 50 years. For people like Bill, Lucy, Kevin, other Kevin.
Oi, get off my car!
Didn't catch this guy's name.
It's Kevin.
Not Patrick. He doesn't shop with us. Whoever you are, whatever you drive, we'll help you make it super. Because super is our middle name. Well, technically it's our first.